Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whalenerds podcast. This is our 5th episode. My name is Slater, and I'm here with Eric and Caitlin.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
And it is a beautiful day in the studio. We are talking about...
weird stuff.
Okay, some weird stuff.
Weirder stuff about whales, dolphins, and other sea creatures.
And just cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Eric is really excited about this topic, and he's going to go first.
Okay, great. Yeah, actually, we've been asking a lot of you for your input on subjects and items you want us to talk about. And one of my buddies over from Dana Wharf wanted us to talk about what's basically whale vomit. And it also comes out the other end, too. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. And I'm talking about ambergris, which is an item that comes out of sperm whales. And it's often, referred to as whale vomit. And what it basically is, well, if you know a sperm whale's diet, they love eating squid, bigger squid. And squid have beaks, big old beaks, similar to a big old parrot. And imagine having a bunch of those in your stomach. And if they had to go out the other end, it probably wouldn't be too comfortable. No. So there is actually a substance that actually will coat those beaks, and it kind of makes it easier to come out. People often refer to it as whale vomit, but it's kind of a misconception. It goes out the other end too, so the whales can eject it either from their mouths or from the other end. So what's been going on with it, it's something that if you look at the history of it, it's been used for many things. Currently, there is some value for this item because it is actually used by the cosmetic trade. It's placed in perfume. For some reason, it makes perfume stick to the human body better and last a lot longer. There are some synthetics out there to take the place of the ambergris, but it doesn't work as well as the real thing. And the value is pretty high. I've been looking it up. I heard values all around the world, and some older ones, some newer ones. I think the latest piece that was sold to a cosmetics company was about 3 pounds, and it went for about $70,000.
I think I heard close to 100,000 before too.
Yeah, so depends on the piece and depends on the current demand for it. But it can be found pretty much anywhere where there's sperm whales, and there are people who actually go hunt for it for a living. I know there's
I feel like New Zealand would be a good spot, huh?
Yeah.
They're always surfacing around there.
Yeah, also you got to remember there's certain places where, grabbing something from a marine mammal is not legal. So if you found it in the U.S., you got to kind of leave it there, and you'll be surprised. You never know. You might have walking by a piece out there. It kind of looks kind of like a gray rock.
Yeah. Were we talking to someone the other day and we were like, oh yeah, if you just smell a funny looking rock, it could be ambergris. Yeah,
it definitely could be. And the places where it's legal, that people will give people a lot of tips on how to find it. One is smelling it, and two,
I have a weird feeling you don't want to smell it.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant.
It's not pleasant. And then some people also will take like a paper clip and just heat it up and just kind of poke the rock or what they suspected to be ambergris, and if it obviously melts, it's ambergris. And if you look up at the history about it, it's pretty gross. I'm telling you, it comes out of both ends of the whale. It was used for incense at times. It was also consumed by certain cultures, so that's kind of gross to think that people used to do that.
Ew.
Wow, this is a really weird topic.
I'm going to make it even more weird. Are you ready?
I'm not listening.
So, related to the sperm whale, the dwarf and pygmy sperm whales, we actually just learned this at the Exploratorium. The Kogia species, they can sequester ink from the squid they eat, and then they have like this other organ to store it in along their digestive tract, and they can excrete ink when they're startled. That's pretty nutty. That one blew my mind. That was really cool.
But do you think it's just like if they're startled, they pee, and it happens? It's just because of what they eat?
Yeah, well, they have
how do they know that they found a little sack?
Yeah, when they cut open, they did a necropsy of one that was on the beach, and it had a sac off of the digestive system that was just full of ink. And like they don't make it themselves. They get it. They somehow can extract it from the squid they eat, and then they do release it when startled.
Like a filter for it.
There are a few videos of them releasing it when startled, which is pretty nutty.
I want to see a pygmy sperm whale. Those teeth that they have on them.
Those are crazy.
Yeah, they look really sharp and pointy.
Yeah, kind of scary.
But I guess the sperm whale's teeth are sharp and pointy too, but it just doesn't look as extreme as it does on the pygmy sperm whale.
Yeah, because their mouth is so little.
Those are pretty cool. I definitely want to try to see those. Where can you see the pygmy sperm whales at?
I mean, supposedly you can encounter them off the coast of California, but they've only ever seen them dead.
There was actually a stranding of a pygmy sperm whale, I believe, off of Malibu.
Just a couple days ago, right?
Probably about a month ago,
What?
yeah.
I thought there was one more recent than that. Maybe
Could you
not.
imagine finding something like that on the beach?
That'd be insane.
You'd be like, what?
I'd be freaking out.
Especially because I know what they look like now. Within like the last couple of months, I've looked at them. But if I didn't know what they were, I'd be like,
look
I just
like
found a
an
new
alien.
species. I'd be like on a selfie video, like, yeah, I just found a new species, you guys, right here on Malibu Beach.
I've seen videos of killer whales hunting them off of like the Canary Islands too this past summer. They are encountered, I think, in almost all the subtropical waters, if I'm correct. The dwarf or the pygmy sperm whale. I know they see them in the Gulf of Mexico. You can see them off the west coast of the United States. You can see them in the Atlantic. So they're just very elusive. And we don't really know a whole lot about them. Kind of like beaked whales.
Yeah, another really cool species is the northern and southern right whale dolphins.
Yes. No dorsal fin.
Yeah, and it's cool because I've seen the northern right whale dolphins. All of us have. We're very fortunate
my
to be able to
favorite.
have them show up here in the Monterey Bay, and it's just every time. At first, you're like, "Oh, sea lions," and then you're like, "Oh, those are moving a little bit quicker," and then. Yeah, it's crazy to see an animal without a dorsal fin. It looks kind of funny.
Yeah, and one time I was at the wheel of the boat because the skipper needed to step out of the wheelhouse one time, and it was like foggy, but then the sun was starting to come through, so there was like this weird glare on the water. You couldn't really see anything, and a couple of them buzzed the bow of the boat, and it freaked me out. I like let off the engines because I was like, what is happening in front of us? It was like this weird like illusion happening underneath the bow, and I realized after the captain came back to the wheelhouse, I was like, you know what, I think we just had some northern right whale dolphins bow ride the boat, but you can't see with the glare, and so it just kind of freaked me out for a second. I thought we were going to run something over, and then they took off.
That's funny. One time I was driving the overnight boat, and I was leaving from Newport, and I was right between Catalina and San Clemente, and it's like 2 a.m, and I hear like shoo, 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 like not like that, but like, you know, like them like moving, and I walked outside and it was pitch black, but it just could have the deck lights on, and you could see the common dolphins glowing in the water.
Oh,
they look
the
like glow sticks.
bioluminescence?
Yeah, and it was just like shoo.
Oh,
And I
that's
remember
super cool.
I couldn't leave the wheelhouse obviously, but I wanted to like show someone. I get on the PA and I'm like, all right, everybody wake up, we got some common dolphins here, 2 a.m.
That's really cool. That's something I want to see. One time I was on a survey ship and I slept through it. I didn't even know it had happened. My fellow observers were like, oh yeah, we saw the dolphins in the bioluminescence last night. I was like, why didn't no one come get me?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool experience.
That's another weird thing we could actually talk about is popular places that actually experience bioluminescence. I know a lot of people who are out at sea are pretty interested in that or want to see that.
Yeah. I don't know too much about it other than we can see it in Monterey Bay. The best place I've seen it is Elkhorn Slough. And then on new moon nights, I have seen it from the Cliffs in Big Sur.
The field or the bathroom dock or the pump out station.
Yeah, back in Newport Beach.
In Newport Harbor. There. One time I was eating a pack of M&Ms on the back of the boat, and I dropped one and it rolled off and landed in the water, and it made like a little blue ring, like, you know, like splash. I don't know.
Yeah, about a year ago, me and Slater realized, we both knew of a consistent spot back in Newport that would always have bioluminescence, but like you said, it is a pump out station. If you're a boater, you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's where they basically dump poop, and it's not something where you really want to put your hand in, but that was one consistent
Your M&Ms
spot.
can go in it.
Yeah. And then here in the Monterey Bay, I know a few of us have been lucky enough in the summertime to go into the Elkhorn Slough area and go paddle around there and when it's pitch black and find the bioluminescence.
You guys just went this last summer, right?
Yeah, we've gone. I think Eric and I have gone every summer with
3
other
or 4
friends.
years almost. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years in a row.
Every year I think I've said I'm going to go, and then I don't go.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
year you have to go. But I've also seen it in Puerto Rico when I was a kid. I think it's pretty consistent there. They like anchored 2 boats and then like put a tarp in between them, and then you could swim under the tarp, and it would glow while you were swimming. I know like there's a lot of photos that come out of Tasmania and Australia.
South of us, San Luis Obispo, I think they have like.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's been like these people were doing long exposures off the cliff onto the shore break, and it was all bioluminescent waves.
Yeah, last year you could sit on the cliffs in Big Sur and see it too.
Yeah.
And I sat down there and watched it. At Carmel Bay too.
Yeah,
actually.
Carmel Bay had some that
It was
one
about
year.
this time last year, like
Yeah.
February, March.
In case you guys are, I'll quickly go over bioluminescence. It's just what we have out here, what we're seeing in the Monterey Bay is dinoflagellates, a little type of plankton that usually when disturbed create this light, their own light. And it's a chemical reaction within the animal. I believe it's luciferin and luciferase. They interact with each other, and they create this bioluminescence. And all kinds of different creatures out there have it. Some use it as defense. Some use it to actually communicate. Some use it to signal others. Some use it as a alarm. It's kind of weird. Like they'll actually create bioluminescence to draw in a bigger predator to actually scare away what's going after them, if you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, there's still kind of a lot of mysteries out there about it, and also it's kind of neat. Every animal uses it in a different way.
And a lot of deep sea animals end up using bioluminescence in a whole multitude of ways. What we see near shore is dinoflagellates, but there's a whole other suite of deep sea creatures that use it too for communicating in the constant darkness.
And if you guys want to look at some of those creatures, you can go to that place we were talking about on YouTube, Mbari, Mbari, and they have tons of videos of awesome creatures down there.
Yeah, they do lots of deep sea work with ROVs, and they've been able to capture some incredible stuff. In Monterey Bay, in the Channel Islands, they do a couple other sampling sites around the Pacific. Pretty awesome stuff.
There was actually a short documentary also on bioluminescence the other day. I want to say it was on Netflix or something about light. And I don't recall, but some of you might have seen that already. Actually, maybe I can.
The Whale Detective?
Not Whale Detective, but there's actually a documentary strictly about bioluminescence. Let's see if
I'm so
find
sorry.
that.
Yeah, there's something coming out this next week, or this past Friday.
Oh yeah, from BBC Two. It hits the U.S. in a couple months, but it comes.
Oh, it's not
it
out?
came out on the 8th in the U.K. The Whale Detective, about the whale that breached on the kayakers. I was actually out that day and saw the aftermath.
We might be in it. We were on the.
Oh, they came and filmed on.
Yeah, they filmed on various boats out here in the bay.
Tom Mustel and his girlfriend. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what other weird stuff can we talk about? I have some ideas that we can just run through quickly of like fun facts of weird things that some species have.
Narwhal.
Narwhals.
Yeah, narwhals.
And their tusks.
Yeah.
You want to go? You want me?
You
to
go for it.
So they're a tooth, believe it or not, that grows in a spiral formation out of the front of their face. And if you were able to look head on to a narwhal, it is asymmetrical, and only the males get them. And I think it's a secondary sexual maturity characteristic, really. And then sometimes they get 2. So they'll have one tusk is the really pronounced long one, and sometimes they'll have a second one, a smaller one, growing out of the front of their face.
And it's the left one that's
Yes.
the longer one all
Yes.
the time, right?
Wait,
Yeah.
what? There's actually 2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, not all of them, but it
Not
grows
all of
out of the left side of the face for most, and then sometimes some of them will get a second tooth to erupt out of the front of the face on the right side.
Wow, I wonder if they can feel that.
I
Like
mean,
your
I guess
tooth
it'd be,
growing in, right?
it'd be like
really
getting,
long
when
one.
your wisdom teeth come in. Maybe it's just like this dull roar all the time.
That's crazy.
Beaked whale teeth are also nuts.
Yeah, but these narwhal tusks, for decades, we were kind of just guessing about their usage, but over the years they've realized that there's a lot of nerve endings actually in that tusk. So there is some thought that these animals can actually kind of use it as almost like a communication thing, kind of tusk to tusk. Also, there's some word that they could be using it kind of just, literally just waving it through the water and kind of sensing conditions out there. Obviously, probably temperature and salinity and all kinds of maybe even vibrations from prey out there.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought they would use it in like a school of fish and whack it back and forth and then pick up the dead.
Oh, like a billfish.
Like a fit. You know.
Never know.
Fish.
They might be able to do that too.
I mean, they live in such remote areas that the opportunities to study them are so far and few between.
I think one of my huge goals is to go and sit. There's this place that you just sit on the sea ice and like they just, it's like they know it's a route that they come through, I guess.
Yeah.
And they just come right between like narrow sheets of ice or two pieces of ice and go right down the middle of it.
Yeah, it's pretty
insane.
insane.
It's one creature I
want to see it.
want to see. Did you guys watch Aquaman?
No.
Yeah.
If you blink, you might miss it, but there's a scene where a narwhal impales a guy. I like to rub my eyes like, did that just happen?
There was blue whales, there was humpbacks, there was some dolphins, I think.
There were humpbacks without tubercles. That kind of upset me.
Honestly, you guys, I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's something that Eric and I ruin movies for ourselves with, really.
No, I think there was tubercles. Maybe in one of the scenes, because there was like one scene that they were really showing up close, and then most of them they're shown way far away.
Maybe one of the animators got lazy further into the movie, but yeah, I definitely
He's
saw.
like, we said they had them.
Now I gotta watch it to fact check for you guys.
They had gray whales in the Atlantic, because don't forget, the movie's
used
based
to be
out
a
of...
thing.
Yeah, but it's obviously based in current times, unless it's one of those ones that went through the Arctic.
Yeah, it was a wandering gray whale.
Yeah. Oh, but very quickly,
Aquaman
guys.
could do anything.
Yeah, but very quickly, guys. Just don't mean to go off subject, but if you are interested about learning more about bioluminescence and you don't want to read a book and you just want to watch something about it, yeah, I just looked it up. It was on Netflix. Look up Creatures of Light. That is actually a short little documentary on bioluminescence, kind of give you the basics of what these little creatures can produce and what they use it for.
Nice. Thanks for that. So my other weird one is beaked whale teeth.
Those are weird. Almost creepy looking.
I had no idea until not even a month ago that they're, and I have the poster on my wall that shows them. I didn't know they had little teeth that stick out of their
Usually
beaks.
the males have the most prominent. It comes up out of the bottom jaw and erupts outside the lips. And it's even weirder when you combine it with the fact that there's usually a pretty healthy population of barnacles growing on the teeth. So they have these little,
it's odd.
I don't even know how to describe it, these little pom-poms on their face that are barnacles growing on their teeth. And the males will rake each other with those teeth. And so you'll see two parallel lines down the other male's bodies because they scratch each other as a way of displaying dominance with those. But then you also have, the strap-toothed whale, where those teeth then start to grow up and over the top jaw. And sometimes that's what ultimately leads to their death, is that they, seal their own mouth shut with this tooth that grows over the beak. It's just totally bizarre. I mean, they are suction feeders, so if they can still open the mouth enough to, slurp up a squid, then it's not a big deal. But sometimes it completely closes the mouth.
Yeah, and back up to those barnacles growing on the teeth. There's barnacles that grow all over the whale's body. Some of the whales, like the gray whale or humpback.
Yeah, and those barnacles are actually what they call endemic to that species of whale. So a gray whale barnacle will never be found anywhere else but on a living gray whale. They don't exist on rocks. They don't exist on other types of whales. So they each have their own specific species of barnacle. There are some other types of more like a gooseneck looking barnacle thing that can grow on multiple species, but those classic big barnacles are...
Yeah, there's only one freaky exception to that gray whale barnacle. Some of you, Elisa actually told me about this. There was a killer whale calf that washed up a long time ago that had one gray whale barnacle on
Really?
it. Yeah, I gotta ask her about that, but
Yeah,
there's only
weird.
one case ever where a gray whale barnacle ended up on another animal.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I gotta look that up.
They actually were
That's
able
really
to
weird.
tell so the barnacle life cycle is timed with the whale life cycle. So when the barnacles spawn, because they're free spawning, or their larvae end up free floating. So they spawn directly to each other, and they're all hermaphroditic. But the larvae, after they've formed, are floating, and then they settle on new material to grow on. They do that at the same time that the whales are in the breeding ground, so that their likelihood of landing on another whale is the highest. And so when they come home from the breeding grounds is when they have the heaviest barnacle loads, and when they're headed to the breeding grounds is when it's the lightest because they've fallen off throughout the whole year. And the northern and southern right whales have similar barnacle subspecies of each other because they're similar species of each other. And you can tell the last time that the northern and southern right whales interacted and had some kind of overlapping range based on the barnacle genetics as well as the right whale genetics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That was a pretty recent paper, right? That talked about that. Yeah,
just a few years ago.
So they're saying that at one point in time they were together, and they know that because of the barnacles that are found on both.
Yeah, they're able to corroborate the barnacle genetics and the right whale genetics, kind of show that there was a more recent interaction between the two subspecies.
Who's just putting these things together?
Science,
They're like,
man.
well, if they both eat Captain Crunch, they must. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what?
Post-grad students desperate to, to think of something creative.
That is creative, though.
But it always ends up helping science. And there was actually a big old paper about whale barnacles that was released recently, and it can kind of give you almost exact travel and migration patterns of these animals too. Seeing what they've picked up on their bodies. But there's another thing, whale lice. That's another neat little thing that also pops up on these creatures. And unfortunately, it's something that you can't really see unless you're really close up on the animal. But sometimes the whale lice is on the animals in such great abundance, you can see them from a distance. Slater, you were just talking about our old buddy Scarlet, right?
And Big Red.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of them. It's so weird because I haven't seen whale lice since those whales. And the humpbacks in Monterey, there's been like one that I've seen with a little bit of red, but nothing like what I saw on Scarlet or the Big Red. And I think there was another one in Newport. But Scarlet was completely head to tail covered.
Well, to back up and tell the story of Scarlet, because there's kind of a reason why there was so much lice on her.
So Scarlet, I can't tell you the dates, but was first seen, let's just say the beginning of summer. And then she showed up with an entanglement. Mark Gerardo was the first to find this whale with an entanglement. Had an entangled peck and something over the fluke as well. And then I think it was like bad weather and rainy that day, and they lost the whale. Mm-hmm. And then she came back multiple times, but no one was able to disentangle it. I think it just wasn't working
Conditions
out.
Just kept
and then she left, came back, and then I happened to be filming her with the drone, and she did a bunch of tail throws and breached, and then ended up breaking the rope or whatever, and then she had nothing. I actually
freed herself.
Yeah, so I have pictures of her completely freed from the drone, and that's how we kind of verified that she was free. And then she stuck around for the whole rest of the summer, and she pretty much got healthy from what it looked like. I mean, all of her lice, like I said, it was from head to tail. And then at the end of that, it was pretty much back to normal with just a little bit of spots.
So sometimes heavy lice populations can be indicative of bad health for a whale. Sometimes it also could be localized on the body, like whales like Scarback, where it's just around an injury, there's a lot of lice. But sometimes when they're just completely head to toe in lice, it means the whale's not doing so hot.
Probably because they're moving a lot slower too, right? If they're entangled or something.
Yeah, and then as they get better, oftentimes, like you saw with Scarlet, the lice load comes off. And but she didn't end up making it anyway.
I was just going to leave that part out.
I know. That's why I got sad when I said Scarlet. Yeah, there was a few whales down in Southern California, a few humpbacks, I should say, that were kind of like local celebrities, and all of a sudden they just, mysteriously just passed.
That's weird because, you get kind of attached to these whales.
Yeah.
Because you see them, it's in Newport, when you see a humpback whale, it's you see that humpback whale, and usually only maybe a couple others come through. But, Wally, the first one that passed, was there, every single day from, June to, the whole summer. I mean, and then Wilma, which Wally ended up being a girl after we found out when she passed. But they joined together, hung out the whole rest of the summer, fed together. And then, I don't know, a couple months later, that one showed up floating.
So there's at least 3, that hung out in Southern California that the fleet out there knew pretty well that passed. There's Wally, Scarlet, and then there was Evergreen. And who else?
Yeah, I forgot about Evergreen. I can't think of any more.
It's kind of an interesting thing to think about for conservation, though, for especially Scarlet. You watch a whale that gets entangled, throws the gear, seems to get better, and then still ends up not making it through the next like 6 to 8 months. So what does that mean for health impacts of an entanglement long term?
See, but I don't even know if that
She coulda had
entanglement
something
even
else.
had
Yeah.
that much impact on her. Seeing that, hearing stories where a whale carried something from like Alaska all the way down south or something like that, or to Hawaii or something crazy, where they carried a trap all that way and still made it and then broke free or got disentangled.
But then we don't know if it lived through the next summer. That's the thing. So it's an interesting new set of questions we have, and that's actually what Ted Cheeseman at Happy Whale is going to work on for his PhD, is trying to figure out what the long-term survivorship is.
There's whales like Trainwreck that have been entangled more than once.
Yeah.
And is it a girl or boy, do we know?
I don't know.
Yeah, but that whale is a wreck, literally. But it's still a rad whale, and it seems to be feeding here every summer.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, back to the whale lice. Wasn't there some talk that they can actually almost be helpful, like in Scarback's case, actually be cleaning out?
Yeah. So what I explained to
the
people
wound?
is the barnacle situation is a commensalism. So the barnacle gets all the benefit. It doesn't help or hurt the whale. The lice is a mutual relationship. So the whale and the lice get a benefit out of it. The lice gets a place to live and something to eat, and then the whale gets a free cleaning service for its skin.
And if you've never seen whale lice up close before, they're pretty neat. I always describe them as kind of looking like a pink aquatic tick, and their feet are like needles. I mean, that's how they really cling on to the whales.
They hook into the whale's skin.
Enjoy the ride. And believe it or not, some of our larger whales out there are so big and have so many barnacles and whale lice on them. I mean, it's hundreds of pounds of little creatures living on them, and they're not exactly harmful, as you can see by what we're telling you. And there's even some thought, especially with like humpbacks out there, that sometimes those barnacles are almost like a set of brass knuckles, especially for the males. They can kind of use them to kind of treat them as body armor, kind of whack other males with the areas on their bodies where there's barnacles is often their chin area. Sometimes even some along their pecs. So.
And that's kind of why you see
beneficial at times
on like a male humpback, you'll see a lot of scratches along the back of their body or just on the top side of their body, and that's probably from the other humpbacks scratching the barnacles.
Yeah, or like charging up each other's backs with their chins rubbing across the back of the other whale. Like Batman, he's so scuffed up. One of the really old males we see in Monterey. He goes to Mexico every year, and all his tubercles have white scuff marks all over them. He has a big mohawk on the back of his fin where it's just been beat up year after year after year. Even the top of his flukes are really white because of all those years in the competitive groups.
Yeah, and what we're describing here, folks, is when the humpbacks get into their competitive behavior, when the males kind of go out there and race each other and compete for the right to be with a female, and they beat each other up sometimes.
Yeah, those competitive groups can be a really crazy thing to watch too. 80,000 pound animal breaching on top of another, It's
sumo wrestling.
Yeah. A lot of it, I don't feel like they were breaching on each other. They were definitely rolling into each other.
Yeah.
But I saw more of just like long bubble streams, diving. I mean, they would be going north, and then they would be going south, and then they'd be going east, and then they'd be like, and they would dive under your boat, all 4 or 5 or 6 of them. And like, they didn't care. They were just going. Like, they didn't care about anything else around them other than chasing that girl around.
Yeah. It's pretty insane. I mean, and it's kind of hard to like, what we think would be a fast-paced, intense thing is slowed down so much in the water, but is still just as intense, and that's like really fast-paced for a whale. Like life moves at a completely different speed when you live in the water.
And those things were moving a speed that was fast. They were going, and it's crazy because you could like leave those whales, and continue on and watch, like a mom and calf somewhere or whatever else was going on, and those whales would be still going like miles in the distance, just breaching, peck slapping, tail throws, and it seemed like for over an hour. Longer probably. I mean, I think they probably just do it off and on all day. In Monterey, when the whales stay really late, like this year we had a few competitive groups, and it was funny because I think what happens for the whales is they start to get this hormone surge timed with when they're supposed to be going for migration. I think it helps cut down on their feeling of appetite. But the food was still there in front of their face. So they'd like get in a competitive group for like 15 minutes
and then they stop and
then
they
lunch
eat.
feed together.
Yeah, and then they get in a competitive group, and then they get back together and eat.
You ate the last anchovy.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to try and watch them like figure out what they were doing, and it was honestly kind of hard to keep track of them on the boat too, because they kept changing direction and doing different things and splitting up and getting together. But it was pretty funny. I was like, I think they don't know what to do: eat or start chasing each other.
Sounds like when we're watching Fat Fin, we don't know what direction he's going to come up
he's
either.
just. I think some of that.
He's
is
at
like,
California Transient. I don't know his numbers.
171B,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Sometimes I think he does that to mess with us. He's like, hee, watch me do this.
And then you're like, okay, I'm going to stay left because he's going to come back this way.
And then he went a mile and a quarter to the right.
Yeah.
But, so talking about, just kind of finish the thoughts on the lice and the barnacles. Gray whales, I think, is the best example where they have like a kind of a self-serving ecosystem. They have such a heavy population of both that whenever a barnacle falls off and like leaves a small wound, the lice are instantly there ready to clean it up, and then they're going on their merry way. So they're kind of fun to talk about with people. Like they carry a whole nother ecosystem on their body with them all the time.
And I heard that, I don't know who I heard it from, but I thought that maybe they could accumulate so much lice that it could actually weigh them down if they were sick or something.
Yeah, same with the barnacles. They could end up with such a heavy barnacle and lice load that it actually ends up hurting them.
Yeah, but it would most likely they would probably already have been sick.
Yeah,
or
it's
something
usually,
slowing them down so that they would accumulate that many barnacles.
Yeah, usually if the whale's not doing good, then that's another way to kind of diagnose their health. They also get these weird things called panella, which like burrow under the skin, and sometimes you'll see like the back end.
Yeah,
of it
those are
hanging
kind of creepy yet neat looking. Yeah, they actually are. You'll see something coming out of a whale. You're like, is that thing like a foot long coming out of it and bright red? And yeah, those are usually panella copepods.
Yeah,
okay, and they have them on fin whales as well, right?
Yeah, fin whales are one of the most obvious that have
Yeah, I've seen one that was bad. It had like pits kind of all over his...
Yeah, their skin always looked pockmarked from those panella.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
One year, actually, and back in Dana Wharf, me and just happened to be on a boat with Shane, and we actually saw this minke breach. And it looked like it had dreadlocks. There were so many panellas on it. Actually, they were all swinging in unison together. Yeah, so it could be, like we talked about earlier, they can be all over these animals at times.
Sometimes dolphins that go to like warmer areas get these little copepods on the trails, on the tip of their
dorsal fins,
on their flukes. On their
I've seen bobbleheads with it on.
Yeah, those are was it Xenobolinus?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Those offshore killer whales had them too. Remember those little long ones? Yeah.
Shoot, I had something I wanted to say.
Sorry.
No, it's alright. It was really cool, and now they're gonna miss out on it.
What about remoras?
Oh, I have a picture of common dolphins breaching with remoras on them.
That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah, down here, I should say up here actually. Yeah, it's kind of a rare sighting. But I remember back down south, seeing some of the blues. Yeah, have them, and sometimes our dolphin would have them too. Depending on what species of remora, I don't think they get that big here, but man, back east, they're like good,
12 inches maybe. I saw
bigger than that, maybe even about 3 times that size. Like they're on manta rays sometimes and stuff like that. So yeah, they get pretty big depending on what part of the world you're in.
Back to that minke whale breaching that you were talking about. Okay, tell me what you guys think about this. We had this day in Newport, right off Newport Coast, like right where the it goes into Laguna Beach, and there was a minke whale that breached. And then I swear to you, like 8 more, all over the place, minke whales, not just one. Like in there, and I have pictures of all of them doing it. And then I had enough time to get video of them doing it, like all sorts of stuff. And it was going on for a while. Like they were just continually breaching all over the place. And like I wonder if it was some maybe meetup, social event or something crazy.
Communicating to each other.
Yeah, they were breaching. Yeah, it was it was like, and minke whales don't breach that much. Other than that time, I had one other time with minke whales breaching. It was the first time I ever was on the news. This minke whale breached like 15 times with his mouth open. You can see the baleen.
Our minke whales in Monterey hate us. I've never seen one.
I've seen one here in two and something years. I've only seen one.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I guess they see him closer to shore around the 17-mile drive, like a Silmar Beach area. And I've had them blow by me a few times if we've been in there watching other whales, but we haven't seen them for a long time, really.
The last time I saw one was actually your family was on the boat. Your mom
really?
your mom and dad, and then there wasn't very many of us on the boat. It was it was an all-day trip.
Oh,
or
it was
something.
an all-day trip, I think. Yeah, and I think that's where we were, right? We were on our way down to Cypress Point, and we saw
I want to
one.
say we were back in the bay, and we were closer to like Marina Beach or something.
Oh, maybe. We always used to, so my first 2 summers in Monterey, like 2014, 2015, we used to see them off Cannery Row like every day. Yeah. And the passengers would never see them because we'd spot it from like 300 yards out, and we'd try and slow down and look at it, and it'd be gone.
Yeah, minke whales are one of the whales that I have to see it at least like 2 times before I bring it up to the passengers, just like harbor porpoise.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us naturalists out there know the reason why. Yeah, these animals can get kind of elusive.
And they can get kind of friendly. I've had times where minke whales are like bow riding on the boat. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's so nutty.
I have it
down
from the
there,
drone
they're
on the
so
Western
about
Pride.
it.
And I know a couple other people that have video of it flipping up on their side, going back and forth underneath the Zodiac
So
and looking
crazy.
at its eye.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean,
they can go both ways, but usually they're like 80% elusive.
Yeah.
Or like 99% elusive and 1% close encounters.
Well, I've seen photos out of Iceland too, where like they'll kind of like spy hop or like put their chin up a little bit and look at the boat and stuff. But yeah, in Monterey Bay, I've never had an encounter like that. Never.
I think our buddies down in Newport had that one follow them, right?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, they had that one follow them.
And
It's
it's done
pretty
it
neat.
twice on that boat.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
If you folks are wondering why these minkies are, why us naturalists don't mention them until we see them multiple times, you're used to seeing a spout or a blow from a whale. Minkies, oftentimes, even if you're looking directly at them, you won't see much of a visible spout or blow. They're really stealthy at times, so you'll be surprised. Even an animal that's 30 foot long can be kind of difficult for us to point out to a group of passengers on board.
Sometimes you'll smell them before you.
See them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they
stinky.
surface really fast. They do have a pretty substantial dorsal fin that's fairly noticeable, but they're so quick on their surfacing that if you blink, you miss it.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one other weird whale thing.
Go for it.
The unfused vertebrae in the necks of river dolphins. I think belugas have something like it too. They can turn their head in so many different directions because they hunt in the river dolphins hunt in mangrove habitats in freshwater and rivers.
And it's really brown, I think.
Yeah,
the
and
water.
it's
A lot of
really
tannin
poor
in there,
visibility. Yeah, and so they can twist all through the mangrove roots and stuff, and that's something that's unique to them is that they can have all that maneuverability in their head.
I wonder if that's something with the other river dolphin, the one that's extinct.
Yeah,
Baiji?
I think it's common in all of them, but I would have to look it up. But that's one of the ways when you learn how to assess the skeletons. If you don't know what type of animal it's from, you look at the vertebrae in the neck.
Imagine if they ate squid. They have such long beaks.
Yeah,
They would really be. Yeah.
Oh.
They have something to hold on to.
We almost forgot about this. We've been callosities. We forgot about that.
Oh yes, callosities and right whales.
What's a callosity?
So those things that look like barnacles
Oh, okay,
above their
yeah.
eye, on top of their head, and then lining their chin. It doesn't actually line where their bone
Makes
is.
them look like such
Well, one thing you can point out is they actually
older whales.
callosities. We'll put it plain and simple. There are these growths that are keratin that are found on our right whales, and it's usually around the head area. And if you look carefully where they are, it's kind of like where facial hair would be, where an eyebrow would be, where a beard would be, where a mustache would be, and these are really tough, thick growths of this hardened keratin that are along these animals' heads, and they're really unique to them. So you see an animal with callosities, you definitely know you got a right whale in the area. In fact, that's how they realized they had a right whale that a few years ago in San Diego instead of a gray whale. And there is some thought that it is actually something useful for them. They can use it as a tool. I think, Caitlin, you were talking a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, they can use it. They think they can use it to help break through ice, because when they feed in the polar areas, sometimes they get stuck in areas where there is a lot of ice cover, and then they have to make an air hole to be able to come up and breathe, and so they can punch through the ice. Interestingly enough, though, bowhead whales, which spend all their time in the Arctic, do not have callosities, but we learned at the ACS conference back in November in Newport Beach that they can break through ice up to 0.5 meter, so 1.5 feet thick, and they don't have that same keratin growth on their head like right whales.
Yeah, that's really interesting why they wouldn't have it. And I mentioned how it's made out of keratin, same stuff your fingernails and hair are made out of. And don't forget, whales, dolphins are mammals just like me and you, so a lot of them do have hair on them, what we often refer to as vibrissae. So if you ever get up close and personal with a whale, especially younger ones, you will definitely see that hair on them. I know a few of our listeners have probably gone down to Baja and gotten face to face with a gray whale, especially the calves. You'll see these little hairs all over their rostrum area.
Yeah, they have like little whiskers. It's pretty cool. So yeah, mammals, they do have hair. They're warm-blooded. They give birth to live young. They produce milk. Whale milk is like
That's a weird thing.
40 to
How they eat
60%
it.
fat. Yeah, it's kind of like cottage cheese. So because they live in water, it can't be just like a straight up liquid because the calf would never get any of it. So it's like kind of chunky, so the calf can kind of gulp it up.
Well, you're
Yeah,
in
we
Mexico.
do know that some of our dolphin actually have a kind of a unique shaped tongue when they're young to allow nursing to be a little bit easier. If you were lucky enough to go inside of a young dolphin's mouth and look at its tongue has these weird little fringes on it. And what it does is the young dolphin will actually kind of roll up its tongue like a straw. It creates pretty much a straw, and that allows it to actually get mom's milk with greater ease.
Would you see any of the milk when you're in like Baja? From the
You
gray
know what?
whales?
I never experienced that, but I'm sure some lucky
heard
people have
some
probably
people,
seen it
yeah.
before. Yeah,
Kinda floats
there
out,
has
maybe.
to. There's always feeding going on, but when the boat's around, they're usually like, "Hey, let's go play with the boats," instead of like, "Mommy, I'm hungry."
Well, if
Yeah,
I
I've
see it,
heard-
I'll tell you.
I've heard of some people that either in the areas where you can swim with humpback whales or in Baja, they've seen it like floating. It's kind of just like this chunky, fatty looking stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of similarities to us. Oh, and back to that hair. We were talking about Aquaman and lack of tubercles earlier on that humpback whale. So if you don't know what tubercles are, if you look at the head of a humpback whale, you see those little bumps. Those bumps are actually a big old hair follicle called a tubercle, and they're actually, obviously it's going to be a little hair at the end. And a lot of thought that they're using them, to kind of feel around them as vibrissae, vibrations in the water and stuff like that, and vibration caused by huge schools of anchovies and krill out here in the bay. So a lot of use for that hair on these animals' bodies.
Well, I think that was some pretty cool and interesting stuff about whales today. The ambergris, the hair,
Narwhal tusks.
the barnacles, the whale lice, the narwhal tusk is a pretty cool one.
Ink sacs.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff today. I hope you guys all enjoyed that. I had an awesome time talking with Eric and Caitlin.
Yeah, we definitely can sprinkle in more weird whale facts as we remember them throughout future episodes, but we wanted to try and get a whole bunch of them out at once because there are some pretty cool things that whales have.
Yeah, thanks guys for listening, and gotten some pretty good feedback from people. And also, if you have any other things that you think we should bring up, subjects or weird things you want to learn more about marine mammals or anything else in the ocean, let us know.
Well, thanks for listening. If you guys don't follow us on Instagram, it's Whalenerds on Instagram. And thank you so much for all the feedback and everything. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.